Hey everyone, it's Andrew Brown, and in this video we're going to take a look at ACL or Access Control List for S3. It is kind of a legacy feature, and I wouldn't really use it for any use case, but there could be customers out there that like to use it for its simplicity, or they're using it for, I don't know, it's just what they want to use. So we should still know how to do it, even though I haven't done it in a long time, but let's go and work our way through this. So what I'm going to do is make my way over to the AWS examples repo. I'm going to make a new folder in our S3 here, and I'm going to call this one ACLs. And what we'll do is go ahead and just create a README file so we can kind of work through this as we're doing this. I'm going to, of course, create a new bucket as per usual. We always seem to create a bucket using the AWS S3 commands. I'm going to use the AWS S3 API command just to mix it up here today. And we'll go ahead and say create bucket. It actually might be put bucket. Let's go take a look here because I really can't remember. We'll go up here and we'll make sure we're on version 2, and we'll go S3 API, and we'll go all the way down here below. And, again, I think it's create bucket. It is create bucket. Okay. And so this should be pretty straightforward. We'll go down to examples, bucket region. Okay, great. So what I'll do is I'll just say bucket, and this bucket name is going to be ACL example AB, and I'll put a few numbers. AB's for my initials. Put whatever you need to do to make sure you don't have naming conflicts. And I'm going to just actually explicitly set the region as US East 1 for fun. And so that will create us a bucket. And so we'll go ahead and copy this, and we'll go hit enter. And so we've now created a bucket here. I'm going to want to place some kind of file in here, so I'm just going to create a file. Maybe what we'll do is we'll wait first and look at our ACL options, because maybe we might want to permit only specific things based on the permission access. But I'm pretty sure ACLs are very simple, so it's either all or nothing, but I guess we'll find out here in a moment. In order for this to work, we're going to need another AWS account. All you have to do is sign up with another AWS account. You can use the exact same credit card. It will start on free tier, and that way you can practice cross-account stuff. Cross-account stuff is really important to get your hands dirty with here, and so this is a great example of one. You can also use AWS organizations to create another AWS account. I'm not doing that here. I just have an isolate account in a separate organization. But yeah, again, the simplest thing is create two AWS accounts with the same credit card. But anyway, what I'm going to do here is I want to figure out how to turn it on via the CLI. Now, of course, for our bucket, we can go do that in the console. So we will go over here and we will ACL example down here. Excellent. And if we go to properties, there should be something for, it'd probably be permissions. Permissions or access points. We should be able to apply ACL. So here it is. So this bucket has the bucket owner enforced setting applied for object ownership. That's cool. And when the bucket owner enforced is applied, use the bucket policies to control access. So notice we can't edit this at all. And the reason why is that our block public access is turned on. And so we need to turn this off. And so we have two options here. Block public access to buckets and objects granted through the new access control lists. Block public access to buckets and objects granted through any access control list. So I want to uncheck both of those so that we can fiddle with this. So that's what we need to do first. And again, going to use the CLI because it's always good to get practice that way. So I'm going to look if we can change. So we have put block public access. Creates or modifies the public access block configuration. So that sounds good to me. It says we have to have that permission. That's fine. We'll go down below. And yeah, that's what it is. So we'll go ahead and copy it. We'll say turn off block public access for ACLs. I'm going to go down here. I'm going to paste this in. And now that we have this, I'm just going to, again, put that in backticks for Markdown, just so it's a bit nicer for those who are reading in the future. And we have our bucket name. I'm going to go ahead and copy that here and paste. So we have block public ACLs true, ignore public ACLs true. So I want to go here and say false and false. Okay. Notice that it has double quotations around here. You don't have to have them there, but it's a bit nicer when you do. So I'm just going to leave them there. And so I'm going to go ahead and paste this in and hit enter. And so now our block public access should be different. We can go find out by using probably the get public access command. So I'm going to just try this and see what happens. I'm guessing it's just get. You start to, again, find out over time the patterns here for the different CLI commands. We'll go ahead and hit enter. And so we can see this is false, this is false, this is true, this is true. We can confirm this in the console. We'll give this a refresh. And in the console here, we can see block public access is off. Individual block public access setting for this bucket. Let's go hit edit. So yeah, it's turned off how we want. It's kind of weird that it doesn't show it very clearly here. I guess it is. It's just really grayed out. I'm sure they'll change the UI on us at some point here. But now notice that we still can't edit in here. So that's something that's interesting. So when the bucket owner enforces applied, use the bucket policies to control access. So I guess there's another thing with object ownership that I didn't realize. ACLs are disabled. All objects in this bucket are owned by this account. Access to this bucket and its objects is specified using only policies. Didn't know that. That's kind of cool. So the idea is that we now also have to enable ACLs over here, which is interesting. So I guess the question is, where would we do that in the CLI? The reason I like going to the CLI a lot is that you kind of understand that there is abstractions that the console is putting, and not always the console matches the API endpoints. So we do have ownership controls here. So I'm going to go here and say put, and we'll go down to examples. And what are our options here? Bucket owner enforce, bucket owner preferred, object writer that you want to apply the Amazon S3 bucket. The container elements of the object ownership of the bucket's ownership controls. Objects uploaded to the bucket changes ownership to the bucket owner if the objects are uploaded. The uploading account will own the object if the object is uploaded to the account. So this is really useful because remember we have to, there's requesters pay. So later on when we do requesters pay, this is going to take an effect, I imagine. So that's interesting there. So what we're going to do is change this to bucket owner preferred and see if that makes it happy. We'll say change bucket ownership. Paste. We'll go ahead and just copy the bucket name here and paste it in here. And we said that we want it to be preferred instead of enforced. So that's something that I'm going to change here. So say preferred here. And I'll go ahead and paste that on like that. And so I'm thinking that's going to do what we want it to do. I mean, that's my guess. So we'll go back over to here, to the console. We'll give this a refresh. I'm not sure if it'll let us refresh. Well, I guess it will. And so now it says ACLs are enabled. Bucket owner object is preferred. So that is good. That means now we should be able to set ACLs. So if we go back over to here, to the bucket, and we go to permissions, and we look at ACLs, here it is, we now have the ability to change it, right? So here are our options. So bucket owner, you're allowed to list and write, and the ACL access allows to have read and write everyone. So I would assume that this would mean everybody. So that's public access. I'm going to assume that means internet access. Authenticated users, anyone with an AWS account. That sounds really good. I think I like that. S3 log delivery group. Yeah, I don't think we care about that. So I think what we want is list. Oh, no, but this is anybody, like all global accounts. Okay, so access for other AWS accounts. No other AWS account associated with this resource. So I can say add grantee, and we'll go ahead and from the other account, we'll go and grab the account ID. Again, I'm just guessing at this, all right? It's not like I 100% know how to use this tool, but that's fine. We have objects and bucket ACL. So I guess this is for bucket control. This is for object control. So I'm just going to go ahead and checkbox all of them because I want this account to have full access. I do not want to give public access to other folks or AWS other accounts, and I don't care about the log delivery group. We'll go ahead and hit save. This is an unknown expect error, invalid ID. You sure about that? Let's clear that out again. Enter canonical ID. All right, let's take a look again here. Copy. Did it have like the hyphens when I pasted it in there? No, it didn't. Okay, I guess we'll have to take a look at that. I mean, we could also set this through the CLI, which is probably preferred here. I'm not sure why I'm doing it here. I just guess I got caught up and I thought we were going to set it there, but we'll go ahead and do it through the CLI because the CLI might show us an example and make it a lot more clear. So change ACLs to allow for a user in another AWS account. And we're going to go over to here, and we'll look up access controls. I'm going to type access first. Nope, how about ACL? And there should be a put bucket ACL. We'll go down below. I'm going to copy this. I didn't read it, but we'll take a look here and see if there's anything interesting. We have the bucket. We're saying grant full control to specific emails. That's kind of interesting. And then we have the grant read URI. So that looks like if it's setting for all users and specifying specific emails, that's kind of interesting. Let's just go ahead and read some of these attributes. So we have full control, read ACP, write ACP. So let's take a look at what ACP means. Allows grantee to read the bucket ACL, allows grantee to create new objects in the bucket ACL. This is assuming that we're going to provide it a string. What string does it want? It doesn't tell us. Expected bucket owner. The account ID of the expected bucket owner. If the account ID that you provide does not match the actual bucket owner request, the request fails the HTTP status. That's not very clear. Let's go take a look at the AWS ACL documentation here and see if we can get a better idea of what needs to happen. So we'll go here, and we have a policy, so that's kind of interesting. Access control list. When you create a bucket object, Amazon creates a default AC grant. Here, this is shown in the following bucket ACL. Okay, so we're seeing some grant information. That kind of matches what we saw in the console, but how do we do this via the CLI? They're giving us a lot of options here. Give me just a moment, okay? Well, I figured out one thing which is interesting. There's a canonical user ID for your AWS account, and so it shows this as the alphabet, some kind of big long number here. So it's not the account ID, it's a user ID for the account. So here we have S3 console, so root user or IAM user. Find the canonical ID for the account. Go to account identifiers and find canonical user ID. Okay. Let's go take a look at that then. So this is for this person, and I'm logged in as Andrew Brown on this one. So I'll go to IAM, and we'll try to follow what they're telling us to do. I think it said identity providers. No, it didn't. I think we go to users, and then we'll click into Andrew Brown, and it was under security credentials, and the idea was that it was somewhere here. And I mean, maybe they're talking about a value in here, but that's the account ID. Huh. Okay, let's go back up here and take a look again. Follow the steps to find the canonical user ID within your AWS account. I mean, I would really prefer to use the CLI. Query owner ID. Use the list bucket command as follows to find the canonical user ID using the CLI. Okay, well, we can try that. I mean, if that's easier than navigating the console, I'd definitely prefer to do that. We'll open this one up here. This is in the other account, my bootcamp account. We'll give it a moment to load. I'll go ahead and paste this in. And so we have this because the idea is that every time we create a bucket, it's going to have the same owner ID. If you're not seeing this, you need to just go ahead and create a bucket really quickly. But it was suggesting that we could find that somewhere else. Again, I'll just double check here and read carefully. Sign into the console in the navigation bar on the upper right corner. Oh, security credentials, right. So I always forget about this every time it happens. But up here, we have security credentials. And then in here, well, it brings us to the same page we were just on. Okay, well, we did that. Oh, it's right here. You're probably like staring at me and being like, Andrew, what are you doing? It's right in front of your face. But when you're recording, it's a little bit harder, I think. Anyway, so now we have the canonical ID. So I'm going to go back here, and I'm just going to bring this on down. And we're going to go back over to our put ACL options. And so what I'm thinking is that, I mean, it seems like you can provide, yeah, you can provide a policy right here. But is that what that example is doing down below? No. It looks like there's also individualized flags. So we have this, contains the elements of the ACL permissions for the object grantee. And then what's the point of all these flags? Allows the read, write, and read ACP, write ACP permissions on the bucket. Again, I don't know what ACP stands for, so that's not very useful. So what I'm going to do is try to go ahead and create a policy. Looks like you can create them in JSON or XML. So I think I'm going to work with JSON here. I think that's what I would prefer. So let's go ahead and just copy. Well, let's go look at what the default one is first, because they're going to have one here, ACL. And so this is the default one. I'm just going to tell ChatGPT, turn this XML into JSON, please. And hopefully it will do that correctly. I mean, we could also just work with XML and stop being so fussy. For the time being, I'll just work with XML, and I'll decide whether I want to swap that over. So I'll just say policy.xml. And I'm going to go ahead and paste that on in here. We have the owner's canonical user ID, owner display name, access control list. So I'm assuming this is me, right? And then down below here is who gets access. That's what I'm thinking. So I'm going to go grab this one here. Again, I'm just guessing. We'll grab this one here. And then we'll go and paste this in here, like so. And then their display name is, Andrew Brown. So we'll do that. Full access, full control seems good to me. And then this one is also Andrew Brown, so that makes it easier. And I'm going to also use that shorthand command that they suggested. No, I don't know where it is anymore, but we'll just grab it from here then. So go into security credentials. And we'll grab the canonical user ID for the actual owner, which is the other account here. All right, and then we'll come back over to here. And so we have put bucket ACL. We'll bring in our bucket here. And instead of using these flags, because I don't trust them, I'm just going to take them out. I'm going to go ahead and just add in that control access policy. So that here is access control policy. And I always forget how to reference files, even though I have a full tutorial on it. Files. We'll just see if we can take a look here. Because the documentation should tell us how we can pass them. Maybe over here. It is. It's just file : // The first two slashes are the parts of the specification. If the path requires to start with that, then do that. So I'm going to assume that this is relative. I always just kind of forget if it is. And sometimes some commands don't support it. So then I second guess myself, even though I've done this like so many times. So we'll go ahead and try this, because that's what it looks like. All it needs, really, to me. Because those other ones just look like shorthand flags to set them in a more convenient way. So we're going to go ahead and try this and see what happens. It doesn't like something, so I'll go ahead and hit enter. So it says, unable to load param file, pulse, no such file or directory exists. Okay, I'm going to drag out the full path again, and then we're going to just paste it in as such, like this. And we're going to go ahead and copy this again, because it really should take it. We'll hit enter. And error parsing parameter expected equals. Okay, so I'll put an equals here, and then I'll provide it like this. Okay, maybe this will satisfy it. We'll hit enter. What do you want from me? I noticed that when I pasted it in that, no, it had that there. Error parsing parameter expected equals, and got that instead. So it actually is parsing the XML, which is interesting. I'm not sure why it's expecting an equals. So just give me a moment, okay? Let me figure this out. All right, so I don't think I'm crazy. I think it's just that some parameters, while they look like they can receive XML or JSON, I think that they just can't sometimes. And this is where the confusion comes from, because every single CLI command is going to give you something different. So this is kind of frustrating, and it's frustrating that they don't even have an example down below of utilizing it that way. But what I can do is probably try to dump that file to a string. So I'm just trying to think here. And down below, they did a very bad conversion of that JSON. But I'll say, I have an XML file, and I want to dump the contents of it to another command. So I'll pass it here and see if it can do it. So instead of referencing the file, dump the string directly to it. Let's see if ChatGPT can help us here, because that might be another way that we could pass that policy along. Now here they're suggesting, now this is not what I was thinking, but here it's suggesting that we should make it JSON. So maybe that is our issue and it's just out of date. Okay, give me a second. I'm going to convert this over to JSON and see if this makes any difference. I have to manually do it because ChatGPT can't do it. All right, looking around here, I actually found an example here under the grantee, and the structure looks kind of similar to this, but not really. So we wouldn't be able to do a direct XML to JSON here, and also the documentation does not show any JSON examples. So I guess for whatever reason, the documentation is just not keeping up to date for whatever reason. It's still showing XML examples. But again, I'm just going to write this really quickly here, since I don't think you want to watch me fill this all out. But the idea is we're just going to supplement it where we need to, and I'll point that out, okay? All right, so what I've done is I've copied over the owner's ID, canonical ID, and the display name. I'm going to assume it has to match whatever it is in your AWS account. I'm not sure. It looks like we have different options for grantee. I don't want to do an email address, so I'm going to take that out. Here we have to determine its type. So this is going to be a canonical user. So we'll do that. And then do we need to specify the URI? I'm not sure. I don't see it here, so I don't think that we do. So I'll take that out as well. And I want to provide it full control, so we'll go ahead and do that. And I think that looks okay to me. So we'll see if we can actually use this with the AWS CLI. If it doesn't, I'm going to be really frustrated, but we'll do our best here. I'm going to take this out. And let's go ahead and copy this and change this over to JSON. And fingers crossed that it works. We'll hit enter. Boom. Okay. So there you go. Sometimes you have to work through issues, even if you don't have the appropriate documentation. So that was well worth it. Okay, so let's go back over to our S3 bucket, which is over somewhere here. So go say, look at S3, and let's see if the ACL policies has been updated. So go to buckets, and this one is for ACL. So we'll just search for ACL down here below. And I'm going to go over to permissions, and we're going to see if ACLs are set. So it looks like we have something here. The console displays combined access grants for duplicate grantees. So it might be obscuring some information here. I'm not 100% sure. But if we go down below, notice we have our canonical user ID, and these are checkbox. So that's exactly what we were trying to achieve before. So now the question is, can I access this bucket from my other account? So what I'm going to do is open up the CLI command. Before I do that, I'm going to switch over to, I'm just going to click here and make sure I'm over in US East 1. I am good. I'm going to open up the terminal here. And so now the question is, how do I access this bucket? Because I actually didn't think about that part. But let's go ahead and do an AWS S3 LS and see what we have. So I don't think it's just going to show up here. So I guess that's the next question is, how do we access that bucket? So I'll find out here. 1 second. Actually, one thought I had was maybe we could just try and specify the bucket name here in AWS S3 LS and see what happens, because maybe that would be the easiest way. So I'm going to just give this a go and see what happens. So here, this is the bucket name. And then back in the other account, we'll paste in the bucket. And it didn't error out, so there is no contents in that bucket. So let's try to place a file there. I'm going to say touch. This will be bootcamp.txt because it's just for my bootcamp account. And I'm going to go ahead and try to move this into that target there. 5235. And I actually have to specify the file or it's not going to do anything. Bootcamp.txt. We'll hit enter. It uploaded it. Let's go ahead now list the contents of it. Great. I'll go back over to here and we'll take a look at the contents of this bucket. It is there. Good. We'll click into it. I wonder if it would show us something about ownership of this object. So I'm just going to type owner. The owner is Andrew. That's not very useful when we're both named Andrew, but I'm going to assume that it's coming from the other account. Like that would be the other Andrew, right? As the owner. Unless we can specify that when we upload it, I'm not sure. But yeah, that's ACLs. And again, it's mostly for utilizing it for cross-account access. As you notice, there weren't any kind of restrictions on like prefixes or anything else. It was very straightforward. But yeah, there you go. And what we'll do is just clean this up. And so to clean this up, we will, before we do that, we'll just say like access bucket from other account. And maybe we'll just bring those commands in here. So we had this one. And we had this one. And then we had touch bootcamp txt. Again, just trying to save this for anyone in the future that might be using the notes. All right, and we'll just do cleanup here. So cleanup is very straightforward. We will grab this here and go down below. And I just want to go ahead and say AWS, sorry, AWS, actually we'll keep it even simpler than this. S3 // this will be AWS S3 remove bucket.txt, or sorry, bootcamp.txt. And then this one will be remove bucket, and we'll clear that out there. And so I think let's just get rid of our bucket. So we're all cleaned up. Delete. What doesn't it like? Oh, I got to put S3 in front of it, right? There we go. So we'll go ahead and run that. We'll go ahead and run that. Great. So the bucket should now be 100% cleaned up and we are in good shape. So I will see you in the next one. Ciao.